Good morning, friends. I'm coming to you this morning to talk about how to find costuming events. I saw a comment on a post yesterday about how do you find these costume balls, costume parties, and it's a question I've been asked over the years so many times, like how do you find out about these events? Because they're actually not easy to find out about. It's a little different now, especially with Instagram. The world is so much smaller. But starting out in costuming, I spent years not even going to events. I was just sewing for the sake of recreating the clothes. And I heard about events, but they were far away. You had to travel to them. I didn't know what to expect. But there are different kinds of events you can find, and it depends on kind of what you're looking for, what you're going to want to spend your time attending. If you found me and you're listening to this, you probably have found me through either Instagram or my blog and for historical costuming. Now there's really only one event that I know of that is actually geared towards the historical costumer for the sake of making the costumes, and that is Costume College. And Costume College is in California. It's put on by the Costumers Guild West. It's a weekend-long conference every year, and that entire event is geared towards the people that make costumes and want to wear them. Now, other than that, pretty much every costume event falls into different categories. There are, of course, reenactments, which are kind of the next level of people are there for the history, specifically, generally. Chances are you may be at a reenactment because you're interested in the military history, and women generally fall into wanting to go to these events so that they can wear the clothes. I don't do a lot of reenactments. There just aren't a lot where I'm from. There used to be one in town that was kind of fun. But those you have to be prepared also for generally a certain era, and they're a bit more serious about portraying that particular era. After that, there are balls and dances, and those generally are geared towards people who dance, be it a Regency ball that's geared towards people who English country dance, and then they dress up in Regency attire because of the dances, or they're vintage dances, people who are into like swing and ballroom. There are events geared towards them, and people will wear the clothes to go to that event. As a costumer, and I dance a little bit, but for fun. Like, that's my motivation, is to go to these things to wear a costume, not to reenact an era or to specifically dance certain dances. Like, I want to go find somewhere to wear the costume. For me, dances are fun because they're generally very relaxed. People are just there to have a good time. So they're generally set in a certain era, and you can kind of pick what you want to wear, whether you want to dance or not. You can still have a good time either way. Next, and this is something that I end up going to a lot because it's what we have in my local area, there are a lot of parades and town days and town celebrations, generally celebrating when the town was founded, and those are a great opportunity in a very relaxed way to get dressed up for the day, go enjoy the town wearing clothes that would have been worn in the town's heyday. So a lot of towns throughout Nevada that do these. Not every town is going to have an atmosphere where you necessarily want to wear a costume, but some do. Like Virginia City is perfect for this because it's a very tourist-oriented town, so they're very open to having you walk around in a costume. Some smaller towns, though they celebrate their town days, unless you're perhaps in the parade, it's not impossible, but it's just a bit unexpected for you to show up in a costume. Virginia City's great. Tombstone, Arizona, I went a few years ago, and that was just the Wyatt Earp days, and so many people were dressed up, whether you were in the parade or not. It was very acceptable surroundings to put on a costume and go enjoy the town. That being said, parades, you can enter a parade. A lot of towns, you don't necessarily have to be part of an organization to have a parade entry. Some historical groups do parade entries, and then you can walk with them if you know the group. Let's see, I made some notes because I knew I was going to forget stuff. Oh, there's also fairs, like Renaissance fairs. There's the Dickens Fair up in Northern California that is all kind of mid-Victorian themed. I haven't been to it, but I've heard really good things. Then there's also historic towns, like I mentioned Virginia City or Tombstone, or also like Colonial Williamsburg. You don't necessarily have to go for an event to be able to dress up and enjoy the town dressed. And then there's planned group events, where if you're part of a historic group, they'll get together and plan a tea or an outing to a museum. Most of these things, all you need to do is either buy a ticket or show up. If you have any question about how appropriate it is to be in a costume at a particular place or event, you can always call or email. I've never run into a problem going to an event in costume that wasn't a specific costume event. But that being said, when you do go, you have to be respectful and just be a good person. And then, so those are like the basic ways those are the basic events you're going to see, in the States at least. How to find out about them. So there isn't like a master list of costume events. In California, I subscribe to it's like a historical newsletter. I think it's called Mass Historia, and I get emails every so often that will show what's coming up in California. And I'm sure other historic groups put out these kind of newsletters. I just don't follow them. The majority of events I find are either word of mouth, where I've seen other costumers I know have gone to an event and posted about it, whether on Instagram or before Instagram, like on people's blogs, and then it would kind of put it on my radar for the future. Let's see. When I travel, because my husband and I do a lot of traveling, and then we'll dress up while we're traveling for some kind of reason. If we're going to a historic town and it's around a holiday, I will look on the town's event page, and usually there may be something going on. Same goes for historic estates, or like historic trains or boats, or museums. Often, if you check their event page, there will be something going on. Like last year, we were going to be up in the Virginia City area in Nevada for Nevada Day. And being that it was Nevada Day, I knew something had to be going on. So I looked on the Virginia City events page, and they had a Nevada statehood ball, which I clicked on, and it was put on by the Civil War Society there. So you knew it was going to be costume. I contacted them, bought tickets, but I would never have heard of this event just in passing. Like, I actually had to go hunt for these things. Same with, I got to go to an Edwardian garden party at Highclere Castle, where they filmed Downton Abbey. And that I actually used to subscribe, because I love the show, to Highclere Castle's newsletter, their email list. And one day I got an email that said, oh, there's a Edwardian garden party. So that's how I found out about that. So get on mailing lists of historic places, of places that interest you or that you may want to visit one day. Same with the garden party in Colonial Williamsburg I was supposed to go to this year. Hopefully next year I'll get to go. But that, like, I'd heard about it. I didn't necessarily know when it was, so I kept up with the Williamsburg website. I saw it come up. That's how I found out about that. And something important is to be open to the eras that are celebrated in your locality. Like, I got into costuming because I loved 18th century clothes, but in Nevada there's really nothing that... I used to do some Regency dancing that was semi... like, you could possibly wear something 18th century to that. But I kind of just learned to embrace what's here, and that's a lot of later Victorian, Edwardian, some vintage stuff, and it opens avenues to events that maybe you necessarily wouldn't have been into, but you go and they're really fun, and it kind of broadens your costuming horizons. Speaking of when I did that Regency English country dancing, that was something I found in town. There was a group in Las Vegas that did English country dancing, and so I kind of wrote my mom in to go with me and check it out. Took a few lessons there, and that's how I found out about the Jane Austen evening in Pasadena. The lady who taught the class here in town was the caller for the dance in Pasadena, which is a very popular dance. Like, the tickets sell out very fast. And that's how I was able to go to that. So if you just kind of get involved in historic pursuits that interest you, there's generally some yearly event that they participate in. Also, there may be a local reenactment group that you could join, or if you look online on Facebook, there's generally groups. I found out about a group in town that I used to do some things with that was a Meetup Group. And those were like, we'd get together for tea or a restaurant or whatever. Another thing that's a little less well known, if you're into shooting, single action shooting, SAS shooting, they do like old cowboy shooting. So a lot of the people dress up for that, if that's like an interest of yours. Let's see. So once you find these events to go to, a lot of them aren't publicized. Like, they don't have big websites or big followings. Some are very small events that are just kind of locally known, or known if you're into it, like a certain kind of dancing. So what I do if I'm traveling somewhere or locally and you see an event, we go, oh, that's interesting. That sounds like something I could wear a costume to. I research it online. I look on Instagram, I look on Facebook, I just Google that particular event and try to find pictures from it, reviews of it, a blog post about it perhaps. And some things you'll see me go, oh no, that's not really my jam, that's not for me. Others though, if it looks interesting to you, you can always email the event coordinator and ask questions. Some events have an era-specific dress code that they want you to wear, and some don't. Some are very free and open. When this is the case, and it's not technically a costuming event, but it's kind of costume appropriate, I generally go with kind of the events, like the town's heyday. So if there was like a big event in the town, or when it was founded, like Tombstone was founded, I think, late 1870s or early 80s. I can't remember off the top of my head, but so I went with like around an 1880 gown. Colonial Williamsburg is most well known for the 1770s. So you kind of want to pick what's appropriate to where you are. Other events like Costume College, or like some Renaissance fairs, they're very free. Like the Renaissance fair we have in town is not Renaissance at all. So you can kind of wear whatever you want. So you just kind of got to find what you're looking for costume-wise, the atmosphere you're looking for, daytime, nighttime, serious authenticity or just for fun, and kind of go from there, research from there. And I'll also keep in mind, when you do find pictures online of events, depending where you're seeing the picture, if it's like really glorious costumes, that may just be one picture from the event. The majority of events I go to, there is a small fraction of people who are there to wear the costumes, so that maybe take the costumes themselves more seriously. But then there's also people who maybe just want to dance but are wearing a costume because it's the theme of the event. Or there are people that just want to be there and are wearing modern clothes. So I've never been to an event that wasn't all across the board, made costumes, bought costumes, authentic, not authentic, just for fun. People did their best. People did an amazing job. So it's, keep that in mind when you plan. Don't stress because chances are your costume will be just fine no matter what it is. That being said, if you are going to an event that is era specific, do your best. Do the research. It's respectful to the event. It's respectful to the other people that are there. And you'll be proud of what you're wearing. If it's just a free-for-all event, I mean, that's a whole different story. Like we go to the Renaissance fair here, and it's just, you can wear whatever the heck you want, nobody cares. But if it is an event that is more serious, it's just generally respectful to do your best. Now, speaking of doing your best, when you put together a costume, it's always a good idea to keep some things in mind keep some information in mind, because no matter what you go to, when you're dressed in a costume, you stand out, and people will ask you about your costume, no matter what you're wearing. People will ask, so it's always good to have some thoughts prepared. If you're going for a more authentic look, or you're going to an event that takes that very seriously, it's always good to kind of keep in mind maybe some sources you used. If you're going to something that's more casual, and someone asks you about your outfit, maybe have something to say about the material you used or what inspired you. This makes it easier and more comfortable to talk to people, to meet people, because when you go out, you want to meet people. If you didn't want to meet people, you'd just stay at home, wear your outfits, or post pictures. So meeting people is a big part of these events, and it's really smart to be able to talk about your costume in a way that is articulate and makes you happy and proud. Now, as for meeting people, it's fun. It's so much fun. But there's also a misconception that when you go to an event, you are going to leave with new costuming best friends. And it's just not really the case. Just like anything in life, anywhere you go, you meet people. Some people you jive with, some people you don't. Go with the thought in mind that you will meet people, but don't be disappointed if everyone you meet does not end up being your best friend. I've been doing this for years and going to events for many, many years, and I have only a couple true friends that I can text outside of costuming and have a chat with. But over the years, I've met many, many acquaintances and colleagues that have the same interests as me in costuming, and we talk about costuming. We message back and forth about costuming. And that comes as you go to more events. Henry parking. That comes as you go to more events, because it's really a network. There's only so many of us, and there's only so many events, so you do end up seeing the same people over and over, and that's how a lot of costumers know each other, just from years of doing it. And some people you will just click with right away, and other people you'll be like, oh, nice to meet you, see you later. Something that always interests me when I go to events and meet people who I perhaps have met briefly or know from online, inevitably, the people I think I am going to be friends with, because maybe we have a repertoire online together, we chat, they are not always the people I end up having a blast with. So talk to everybody, be kind and nice to everybody. If someone's sitting alone, go chat with them, ask them about their costume. You'd be surprised the fun people you meet who you've never come across before, or you'd never wouldn't think you would gravitate to. Like, human chemistry is so different than just what we get through online. And that is the beauty of going to live events and meeting other people that have your interests, because they have to have at least some of the same interests of you if they're at the same event. There's a reason they're there, there's a reason you're there. And over the years, I've really been lucky. I haven't met too many nasty people, but every so often, man, you come across somebody, and forgive me for saying it, it's usually older ladies who know better than you, and they're gonna tell you about it. And being prepared and having something to say about your costume is actually really helpful in these situations. However, most of the time, these really troublesome people, it's just like a personality flaw with them. So just be polite and just get out of town. Say you have to go to the bathroom and just politely excuse yourself. But you will come across these people, and it's best just to ignore them, not let them ruin your day. Just keep going, because that's their problem if they're telling you what's wrong with your outfit or what you could have done better. And everyone meets these people, so just walk away. But as I said, they're very, very few and far between. The majority of people I meet they just want to be there. They're just happy to be there. So chances are you'll meet all good people. If you do meet people and get along, and if they have an online presence, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, keep in touch afterwards. Chances are you may go to the same event again, or may find something that you both are into and go, hey, are you going to that? Oh yeah, I am. Great, see you there. It's networking. Let's see. So, what do you do when you're into costuming and you want to go to these events and you don't have anyone to go with? You don't know anybody that's going to be there. You can either be brave and just go alone. That's tough though, because it's hard. You want to go to something with a friend or a group. As I said, you can join reenactment groups, meetups, Facebook groups, where you may meet some people that are going to events that you're going to. And even if you don't know the person personally, you can always reach out ahead of time, ask if they're going to an event. If it's someone you feel comfortable doing this with, they may say yes, and then even though you probably won't spend the whole event with them, there's a friendly face in the room that at least you recognize and you can wave and chat to, and it makes a sea of people you don't know a little less intimidating. Also, you can take a friend with, even if they're not into costuming. It can have an easy costume, rent something, buy something, or don't wear a costume at all. As I said, a lot of these events, some people are in costume and some people just are not. So just take a friend or a spouse, or before Telly started, my husband Telly started going to step with me, I'd go like, hey mom, come with. And that's how I started doing the country dancing, and she went with me and she made her costumes and it was great. Yeah, as I said, if you know people on, like, who you know online, not just like a complete stranger that you've never heard of, that's a little weird. But if you have a rapport with another costumer online that you know is going to the same event, reach out in a polite way. That always goes well. Always can go well. Let's see. So basically, you gotta hunt. Just do a little online digging, and then you just kind of gotta go and give these things a try. And you may be the only person dressed up. You may be one of many, or the entire event. But everyone generally is just there to have fun, there to wear their nice outfits, to enjoy the era that they're dancing in or reenacting, to celebrate whatever town or holiday or event is going on. People at events, they want to be in a good mood, so chances are you'll have a good time if you go to any of these. And if you know any good events, pop them down in the comments. That way we can all find out about more things, say the event and maybe when it is and where it is, some favorites, and that way we can kind of get some good ideas rolling. Or if you have any other good ways of finding events, share them. And always be welcoming. If you've been to an event many times and you see new faces, be friendly, and because the more people want to go to events, the more events will happen, the more places we will have to go and get dressed up and just have a good time. Anyways, I'm gonna go finish my coffee, and I've been jabbering on here for about half an hour. I hope it was coherent. So hope everybody has a lovely day, lovely Tuesday, and we'll catch up with y'all soon. Bye-bye.